Welcome to the Great Distraction.
How's it going, folks? This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is the legality of suicide. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-host Thomas.
How's it going?
Rick.
Hey, buddy.
And Glenn.
Hello.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. A common misconception, at least it was for me, and I think for a lot of other people, but I don't know. I'll leave that up to you guys. Suicide actually isn't illegal in this country, which it was, and I believe, if I remember correctly, when I was looking up, researching into this, I believe the last two states legalized it, or rather removed the illegality of it. I don't know how to correctly say that. It's not like they said, okay, you guys can go kill yourselves now. That's not what, it was just they made it not a punishable crime to attempt to commit suicide. Or a federal offense, rather, or whatnot, and or a state offense, and in the 80s, I believe that was. So it actually isn't illegal. However, doing so has a lot of its own ramifications that go along with that. Before we get too far into this topic, we just want to throw out there, you guys, we are not attempting to make jokes about this or turn this into a funny or humorous matter. We're going to probably say some stupid stuff that we'll laugh at, but that is not the intent of the...
Not us.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, that's right. That is not the intent of the topic here. And just in case you do know anybody who is in need of assistance or advice or therapy or whatever, we looked up the National Suicide Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. So if you guys do know anyone who needs help, please send them that way and not to this episode. It probably won't help knowing how we are. But yeah. Anyway,
was your cup half empty over there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our perspectives.
I'm going to put a bullet in the bottom of it.
Our perspectives are a little skewed around me to be advising anyone out of a poor or sticky situation in life. Let's see. However, going back to what I was saying, if you do attempt, if one does make an attempt to commit suicide, you won't be necessarily arrested, I guess, unless you do something crazy like trying to jump off a building and don't actually do it. Yeah, you're probably going to get arrested for that. But if you're in the comfort of your own home and take too many pills or whatever the situation may be. However, once they do get you in the hospital and make sure that you're okay and get you stable or whatever, they're going to probably bring in somebody to talk to. And that person will pass a judgment on you to determine if you're safe to go home or, if you can be released from the hospital or you need to be otherwise restrained. And that may end up as bad as a full-on commitment or keeping you in the hospital for, what was I reading? I think most of the states are like 2 to 5 days they can hold you in the hospital and not release you to keep their eye on you.
That was my understanding, that there was like a mandatory 48-hour observation of you to make sure that you were no longer suicidal or that you got...
threat to yourself or others or whatever.
Yeah, to make sure you got the psychological attention that you needed.
Yeah, at least to get through whatever the hard time is or whatever the situation is. Then one of the other things I thought was interesting about that same thing is because, I don't know, maybe these are just my misconceptions, but I'll throw them out there anyway. I thought if you did something like that, you're like real close to getting committed. They're just going to go throw you in the padded room and in the straitjacket and you're done, right? Apparently that's not the case, though. From what I was reading, it's actually quite difficult to get committed into a mental institution. I don't really know what the proper term is.
Well, they've closed all of them in California.
Yeah, so there's not that many of them. So it's really hard to get somebody into them. And on top of that, they don't really want to stick, depending on your situation, or the person's situation, they don't want to stick anyone in there who doesn't have like insurance that they can milk from them or
parents
lots of money
pay for it,
or somebody to pay for it, because if they can't get money from you, they don't want to be housing you in these typically, I think, state or maybe federal-run facilities where they house these people, and so the likelihood of somebody getting committed is very low, apparently, which kind of threw me for a loop. Because I thought for sure, man, they're gonna lock you up.
Yeah, that was what I thought it was as well. Do they have private facilities that deal with mental health that you could be like
I think they do, but again, those are
stored.
That's a terrible word.
I know it's real hard to figure out what the political correct words are for this.
Detainment isn't it, but where you would be admitted for a certain period of time, like if you were to self-admit yourself.
If they do, the private ones are going to be for profit, which means they got to have somebody to bill.
Yeah, it's just like a drug rehab center at that point.
Hospitals are private.
Yeah, but they can bill insurance, and they take so now if you go into the emergency room and you're completely homeless, no identification or whatnot, they will save your life. But if you're not in a life-threatening situation, I don't think they'll do anything for you. So maybe I guess that would be depending on the circumstances. If you were completely broke, had no insurance or anything, and you took too many pills, they'd probably take you in, pump your stomach. You look like you're stable. There's a waiting room, buddy.
Have you talk to a chaplain and then kick you out?
48 hours later, probably.
Yeah,
but I think most state and federal laws have like a time. I think it is 48 hours.
Well, like I said, I was reading it varies from state to state, and that was one of the other things too. As far as what they can, how do I say this? As far as what legal rights they have, or what of your rights they can take away from you, so to speak, or do against your will, varies from state to state. There was nothing there. I couldn't find any kind of like common ground, like because I guess you could say the federal government really lets the individual state governments manage it however they want to manage it. So that's why I saw so much variance. I think one went up to 7 days or 11 days, something like that. But it just seemed to vary, a lot in what they could do, how long they could hold you, what they could force you to take as far as medication goes. I mean, how much therapy you can go through. It is all kinds of stuff that
all scares the crap out of me.
Yep.
Well, I mean, however,
that's where they introduce you to antidepressants and opiates.
Yeah,
and
gotta get
you on these. Yeah, here, let's get you on these. We can't make any money off a hospital because you're too poor to pay for the hospital, so we'll get you hooked on this.
It's very, very possible. However, at that point, if a person in that situation doesn't have anybody that comes for them, you got loving parents that run after you. Oh, why are you doing this? Or something, right? What do? You just let them go right back out there? I mean, you got to do...
You just let them do what they're going to do, man. Why are we paying for them? If they don't want to be here, then... Sorry.
That is definitely
I think Glenn would reload their gun as they left.
Jeez.
You out of bullets? I got 7 over here.
Here's a box.
Mind your backdrop.
Yeah. First rule of guns, know what you're aiming at, know what's beyond it. Oh, man, that's brutal. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll get to why. Well, yeah, that's one of the topics I want to cover here is why do we
Glenn
stop?
Wants to do this?
Why Glenn is such a terrible person. So, and what I wanted to say, too, is while it may not be actually illegal and you're going to jail or going to get, arrested for it or whatever, if you do get detained, so to speak, or held in the hospital, I mean, it's not obviously as bad as jail, but in a sense, you're definitely getting some rights taken away from you, right? And there's certain things.
Well, that's why it's real tricky to keep somebody that's, if they pass a lot of like basic, and a small intervention with like a counselor or something at the hospital, there's really not much you can do, especially in the United States. You have a lot of freedom. They can't hold you at all if you demand that you leave. I mean,
yeah, I guess you can really fight it and then basically force
them
them to let you go unless you really did something really bad, depending on if you hurt others and your
process. But I think that's more of a legal situation where
that's true. That's true because if you try to kill yourself in your car or something, you end up hitting other people or cause property damage. Now you've committed a crime, and that's what they're gonna. So I guess it depends on how you would make this attempt. Is what also will affect the other trouble that you're in. Beyond that, you're obviously not happy with life.
Yeah, so which could lead to be, in a worse situation. I had a buddy when I was younger who got in some trouble, did something stupid and got in more trouble, and did something stupid, got in more trouble, and he ended up taking his own life because he was in so much stuff just wrapped in the system of like he couldn't get out no matter what he did. So that's kind of a shitty way to go.
Definitely.
And as I understand it, if you have a documented history of trying to take your life, that may prevent you from owning a firearm.
Interesting. Oh, yeah. Okay, I have heard that before, which I suppose has... Well, in California, we have that rule, too. We have a law, too, where you can't... if you go into a gun range and you want to rent a gun to try out a gun or whatever because you don't have one of your own, if you go in without one of your... correct me if I got this wrong. You go in without one of your own firearms and you try to... And you're by yourself and you try to rent a firearm to shoot it. They will not rent you a firearm.
Yeah.
You have to come in with your, it sounds ridiculous, and the first time we heard it, we were like, what the hell did you just say? Why is this a thing? If you come in without your own firearm and you come in by yourself, they're worried that you're going to rent a firearm for $15-$20 or whatever and go put a bullet in your head in the range or take it outside or whatever. And so I guess California passed a law. They said, well, obviously the range did it not because they thought you looked suicidal, but it was not up to their judgment. It's just flat out.
It's a liability issue.
Yes, it's just a flat out law. They come in by themselves. They don't have a firearm. You cannot rent them one. That's it. So it was really weird the first time I had heard of a friend getting denied for that. I was like, are you kidding me?
I was shocked at first. It's like, I'm in here all the time.
Even if they know you, they don't even care. It's just
it's
like
part of the thing.
It's like if you look under 21, even though you're not, it doesn't matter. We have to check your ID anyway before I sell you alcohol. It's just, this is the law.
Yeah, the only time I was prevented it was at a range in the Bay Area, but they were familiar with me, and I didn't understand it because the guy only told me, he's like, well, it's for your protection and ours. I'm like, hold on. So if I am by myself and I don't have a gun, I'm more of a danger to you than if I bring a friend and a bag of guns.
Yeah.
And then someone else later told me it was a suicide thing. And it does happen. There was one in Chico in like 2015.
Jeez.
So as I understand it, most ranges have that policy, whereas like I'm a member at a couple others and they don't have a problem with it.
But that's a membership though, right?
Yeah, I'm a member there. Yeah, they're very familiar with me, so it's like, whatever.
It's just one of those odd rules too. And then the other thing too is when I had inquired about it at the ranges that I go to, they none of them had said it was a law. They just said that's the rule, and that was really bizarre too. Like, just say it's the law. Then people don't have to walk away thinking, "What the hell is wrong with this place?" This is stupid.
A difference between law and policy, right?
Okay.
So it's Starbucks' policy that you not carry a firearm into their establishment. It's not the law that you can't do that. It's their policy.
Okay, all right.
I think Starbucks is making their own laws.
Oh,
They're about that strong at this point.
Well, when you can charge... I did the math the other day for... I forgot to tell you guys about this. So if you do the math for... not to talk too much about Starbucks, because I really don't like the company, but their medium...
Drinks more Starbucks.
Yeah. Their medium coffee is like... I don't know, what is that? They have Vante or... I don't know what the stupid names are. Anyway, the medium coffee is like $3.95, so $4. And it's 16 ounces. If you multiply that out per gallon, it's like $32 a gallon is what you pay for bean juice.
Damn.
Yeah, and the Californians are over here complaining about our $3 a gallon gas. They're paying $32 a gallon for bean juice with sugar. Yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
Got to get your drugs, man.
And it is a drug, because why else would people be dumb enough to pay that much for it? Rick, you had some stats that you were talking about earlier. Can you rattle those off real quick? Because that was some cool stuff.
So in the U.S., there are 40,000 suicides per year. That's 40,000. There are 16,000 homicides per year in the U.S. So you are a much greater threat to yourself than you are in danger of being killed by someone else.
Yeah,
and for every one successful suicide, there are 25 attempts at suicide. And those are all the figures that I've got.
Documented attempts.
Sure.
That's probably just the statistics.
It might be an estimate. I don't recall.
Okay.
But that we'll go with estimate.
Glenn's like trying to come up with some sort of business to help people.
Jeez.
I can see his wheels turning.
Hook.
Yeah, I want to
Having troubles getting the job done.
I want to touch on that 16,000 homicides though, because you had mentioned that from your finding, and again, you guys can look into these kind of stats yourself. Always take our stats with a grain of salt. Always take everyone's stats with a grain of salt. Go do
95% of stats are made up.
That's right, and 95% of what I say is made up. So there you go. Take it for what it's worth. But anyway, go out and do your own research. However, 16,000 homicides in the U.S. in a year. Apparently, that includes all types.
So that's auto, gunshots.
That's right, including gun-related homicides, right? So that means you're roughly, 3 times as likely to kill yourself than you are to get killed by somebody with a gun.
In America.
Much more than that. So if you just assume that all of the homicides...
all 16,000 were gun-related.
And
they're not.
They're not.
Yeah, so you're probably like 100 times more likely to kill yourself than get killed by somebody with a gun. So as we enact more gun laws, let's try and remember that one, because that's That's kind of stuff just blows my mind when we the way the media plays out things like that and builds them up to be much worse than they actually are. And bear in mind too, that would include things like school shootings, all kinds of mass shootings, all kinds of things which are like so rare in happening, but the media chooses to blow up whatever it wants, and that's what it looks like. Make us think, the fear mongering is never ending.
Hey, all that media stuff about the mass shootings sparked a new business. There are people that go around to different companies and do mass shooter drills to prepare these office employees how to deal with somebody coming in to shoot.
Yes,
absolutely.
We have them at work.
We have them in our work too. Yeah,
I bet state agencies were the first to jump on that. It's a huge liability.
All government agencies make big, huge classes about it. The other thing, too, is it breeds new businesses. They create products that circumvent anti-gun laws or all kinds of things. It makes people money. That's one thing that's funny about this. Well, no matter what you promote, somebody stands to gain from it. This way, that way, red, black, blue, white, whatever. It doesn't matter. There's a way to there's somebody who stands to gain from some other side losing. It's amazing. I wanted to talk a little bit about assisted suicides, because it's still a thing out there. Those of us that are, if you're maybe 30 or older, you should remember Dr. Kevorkian, and Thomas was saying that there was another one called Dr. Death who was different. I thought Dr. Death.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought it was Kevorkian.
I thought Dr. Death was Kevorkian, but apparently there was another guy, and he couldn't remember the name.
There's been a couple. I can't remember his name, but there's been a couple of these guys that have popped up.
And those are the ones that got famous, right? Because there's lots of them that do this. Assisted suicides is there's probably a lot of physicians all up in the states that may have legalized that. And that was when I was going to first start. In Oregon, Washington, Vermont, California, Montana, and Colorado. I guess mostly the West Coast then, or Western side. Anyway, assisted suicide is an option in those states. However, it is not possible in all cases. From what I know a couple of people in the medical industry, and one was telling me when I was talking to her about this that apparently this assisted suicide method is administered by a bunch of little tiny capsules that you have to take. I guess little tiny pills. I did not look this up. I don't even know if there were pictures of it. I didn't see anything while I was doing my research on it. But apparently these little capsules are tiny, hard to hold, and there's many more than one. And the patient has to actually be able to physically grab them, hold them, move them to their mouth, and take them and swallow them so that they can participate in this in their own assisted suicide. I guess in many cases, that is not even possible for people to do. If you are, suffering from some condition that you can't stop your hand from shaking, or maybe you're paralyzed, or all kinds of situations that would make it so somebody could not take a bunch of little pills, you're kind of shit out of luck as far as the assisted suicide goes.
So if you're bad off enough that you really, really want to, you potentially can't.
There is a good chance you will not be able to.
Or even more crazy, when you are physically unable to do it, then they will approve you to do it.
Yeah.
But not before then.
One of the criteria is that you have to be that was another thing I was going to say. You have to be classified as terminal. And what I guess as they define terminal is less than 6 months to live. So if you're in extreme pain, you got the guarantee you're going to die soon, but it's 7 months or 8 months. Well, you have to wait from whatever period of time you are now until they have classified you as less than 6 months and or terminal, deal with whatever the condition is, and then you can apply for and maybe begin the process, if you're physically able to, of assisted suicide. And I thought this was nuts, dude, because for some reason I had in my mind that there was some, and I mean, I didn't think it was too far-fetched, and I know it could be done. This is what I thought they were doing. I thought that they had found some way to hook up a syringe or some sort of injected plunger or whatever that was automated. They hook it into the IV, it goes into the IV line, and it would administer the drug that kills you, essentially, and they give you a button. I mean, here's the remote, press the button if you want to die.
But if you can't push the button...
I mean, at least that I figured that would be easier. I mean, mash your head against, use your tongue. I mean, anything that you can use to depress the button.
We're not Pickle Rick here.
Nice. Oh, my sweet brine juice. No. I figured it was something a lot simpler than taking pills. I mean, I don't know. I always imagined that there would be something injectable. I guess maybe I was thinking of like the death penalty, the ejection thing or whatever they do to people. But I don't know.
I was a kid when the Dr. Kevorkian thing was in the news, and that setup that you described was how I recall his procedure.
Yeah, he had like a little medical machine that he was using,
Okay,
but I don't remember if it was if somehow he would set it up for them and then they would touch something or turn, you know what I mean, like they made the final decision. But again, it puts it in a situation of, well, they would have had to had mobility.
True.
To, physical
but
mobility.
less mobility was what I was thinking. And maybe Kevorkian was able to get away with that stuff because at that time it was like borderline gray area, and the laws hadn't been passed. And since then the laws have been passed, and now this is the procedure. You must take these
Sounds
pills.
like me coming in from Amsterdam with CBD oil.
And dreads.
Traveling
It's
while
a gray
drinking.
area.
It's a gray. Jeez.
From what I remember, you had to travel to Oregon to
Yes,
go to him.
That's where Kevorkian was based on. It was
Yeah.
Oregon. Or I don't know if he was from there, but that's where these were happening.
That's how I remember it. And I believe that was how he wasn't charged with murder because he had set it up so that the patient had to do the final step themselves. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't murder, but it was something along those lines.
I think he
They were
did get
trying to
convicted of something, though.
Really?
I feel like
Homicide
I did.
or something like that. They probably tried to commit him.
Or maybe he got
was a
like
big
one
deal.
count of murder.
Charge him with
that's what happens to
homicide.
a lot of those. They'll plea bargain out and they'll say, well, we're going to charge you with something. So
Yeah.
they'll, instead of charging him with like 12 counts of murder, they pin him on one.
Yeah, which is a shame. I mean, I think to allow someone to die with dignity, I don't understand what the
Well, we're one of the only
problem
cultures
with that is.
that's got this hard on about not being letting people make their own decisions like that.
That's
and
not
it's because
true.
we're a Christian-based country.
but
I
all the
think is a lot of
religions
it.
don't like it, though. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they're all against
But
it.
I mean, in America, that's my response was in America, I think we have this
Especially with this corporate attitude that we have. I mean, we are the resource.
Absolutely.
What makes money? We generate us being alive and in pain and needing these products is putting money in these
We're
people's
worker
pockets.
bees, kind of. Yeah, we're products
However,
buying things.
this is another example. I wish I could remember that damn saying that Rick said a while ago that if you're not
If you're the product, I
yeah,
was trying to remember that.
Damn
before.
it! I know. If you're not the purpose that the product is being made, then you are the product.
If you're not the consumer, you're the product.
something like
Something
that,
like
right?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something along those lines. But yeah, we are definitely. I never forget that, people. You are a damn resource to everything.
And I appreciate that, but at that point, you're also a waste of resources, right? So they're dumping a ton of resources into keeping someone alive that should, in, let's say, all fairness, die.
Yeah,
right?
but those resources are how they get paid. I mean, whether they're keeping nurses watching them around the clock, they're keeping doctors, their insurance companies are paying for all. They're giving them, they're pumping them full
Yeah,
of
well,
drugs.
that's what
and
we said before.
pharmaceuticals.
There's no money in people being healthy.
No, if you're
So-
dead, the money's done. The only one who gets the money now is the funeral
But we
services.
can
and-
create a whole nother industry in helping these people die with dignity. You know, it was like the Soylent Green situation that you were talking about. That's an entire industry on letting these people go with dignity and saving their community the valuable resources from being wasted on them.
yeah, so if you haven't
Or
seen
your,
that,
or your family from having to go through the trauma of watching you wither away and die.
yeah, if you haven't seen that movie, it's an old. Forgive me, I remember I had to ask Thomas before on this. Charles Heston, Charles.
Oh, I can't remember now.
Anyway,
Carlton Heston?
no, Charles. It's just
Karl Marx,
Anyway, damn. Anyway, it's called
Carl's Jr.
Carlton Banks?
Oh no.
Fuck, here we go. All right.
I recently heard that guy, that dance that Carlton used to do. He
Yeah.
was trying to sue Fortnite because Fortnite stole the big
His
thing
likeness.
his dance that he does.
Yeah.
And they threw it out because apparently you can't patent or copyright a dance that you did on a show.
Why not?
I don't know that there's a law.
That's
that
probably already property of the production company.
Exactly,
that had
exactly.
the-
That's who it belongs to, if anybody.
you're
not
work for
you.
hire at that point.
Yes, exactly. You're like an independent contractor. Anything you produce is for the horde.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So if you have not seen that movie, it's an old movie from I think the '60s, and it could be '70s. I don't know. You have to look it up. Anyway, it's about kind of a post-apocalyptic world, so to speak, where people live in small communities and they're kind of like gated in, and they very much stick to close together. There's running out of food. The whole earth is dying basically, and it's like stupid hot outside all the time. And the government has put together rations of different Soylent products. There's like Soylent Red, Blue, and Green. And this is how they disperse these rations, these like rectangular cubes out to the people on a daily basis, and that is your rations for food. People grab the things and eat them. And that's what we sustain ourselves off of at that point. Anyway, so one of the options, there's a lot of different unique ideas for how the world has changed within the society and what's allowed and how people live in this movie. It's pretty cool. It's just old. If you like old movies, it's cool. But anyway, is these facilities that are set up such that you can walk in off the street and they, you sign up to do your paperwork or whatever, go through their paper process or whatnot. And they give you a shower, they clean you up, and at that point, that's a rare thing. People don't have, running water in a lot of places now, and so the world is kind of really falling apart. So they give you a shower, and they give you a nice, clean, white linen robe, and they take you into this room where it's this beautiful white room. And there's like these big panoramic displays around you, and they show you really pretty pictures of how beautiful the world used to look, and like oceans and landscapes of mountains and stuff like that, and rivers and lakes and trees and things. And they play some really soft music, and you lay in this bed thing in the middle of the room as you're looking around, and then the drug has already been administered to you, and you just lay there, fall asleep, and die. And that is an option for getting out of that, rough life that is there, and also at the same time, like Glenn was mentioning, doing society a favor, because at that point, every mouth to feed and every entity alive is a burden on the system, as it is today. But we can sustain a lot more at this point than we can under the circumstances of Soylent Green. But anyway, if you haven't seen the movie, you should check it out. It's got a lot of cool concepts in there.
Yeah, but I mean, I've always been a big fan of like being able to have some sort of choice, and especially in that matter. I mean, I've had lots of friends and family have died of cancers and different crazy things, and it's crazy. People don't want to really think about death or life, but when you think about it, it's like I would love to have that option. I feel like there should be a way where we can somehow at least have the freedom to have the option. I think it's crazy that,
and have it be socially acceptable too.
Yeah, socially acceptable.
It's just okay that he's 75 years old. He's lived a great life. He's maybe he's just ready. He's done everything he wants to do, or she, whatever. And go with dignity. Just I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah, and if you think about that, the alternative is like, okay, you get this nice peaceful exit, or you can die, from cancer, and you're getting pumped full of like radiation, and the last 8 years of your life are just burning
absolutely
hell.
miserable.
Yeah, let's say exactly. Let's say you go back to that thing I was just saying. You say you're 70 and then you get diagnosed with prostate cancer, dude. Fuck that. I don't want to go through that.
Right.
So I'm just okay. I'm not going to fight this, or maybe you fight it one round and it's unsuccessful. Okay, fine. You obviously you decide. The individual decides what it is how they want to deal with this. They go one round. For me, I would say, okay, maybe I'll try it one round, but I'm not dealing with this the rest of my short life. I'm not dying suffering from this crap. It's just not worth it to me. So
but I mean, socially, it's just so unacceptable.
That's the thing is if it were socially, if people understood, well, hey, I mean, he just didn't want to deal with it. I mean, and others would think, well, hell, if it comes down, if my situation ends up like that, maybe I would consider the same thing. It would become an open option instead of stuff that's so taboo. However, I think that it would probably only become an open option. The only way we would do that is by people who are not being pre-programmed and given, moral and ethical judgment by their religions or whatever, in order to think that this is bad. Because that's really where the negativity is coming from.
Well, I think we could, it wouldn't be too much different than the terminal determination, right? We would just push that critical condition back a bit further, where they wouldn't have to wait.
But see, that's still a criteria, though. That means you as an individual don't actually have the choice. You have to go to the doctor and say, okay, I'm not 6 months terminally ill, I'm 3 years terminally ill.
Right, so that was my point. We can just push that back.
But still, that means you need that approval. We're talking about it's socially acceptable, or you're just like, I'm out. I mean, you can go out at 24 if you want. However, that might be, people might say, hey, maybe you want to stick around a little longer.
Sounds like you're promoting this.
Yeah, that bad breakup, there'll be another, buddy. You don't got to go kill yourself over it.
You got a lot of shit like that to look forward to, my friend.
Man, that whole sentiment just bugs me for some reason. Just putting off or if somebody's really not happy and is willing to take their own life at that age, dude, we have too many people on this planet.
We really do. However,
why are we stopping them?
The only problem I have with that is when you've only lived a quarter or a third of a normal human length life, it's I don't know. I kind of feel like the way I've always looked at it was like, no, I've always believed that we're here to collect experiences while we're here, right? And it's like if your experience, if your experience is to experience some fucked up shit, I think you should stick around and experience it for some reason or another. Maybe you collecting that experience is what you're supposed to do. So I always wonder about that.
Are you guys talking about like teen suicide where it's too early at that point? Yeah. So I appreciate that. And I think that might have like a taboo feeling for myself because we've been conditioned that that's too early to exit, right? But there is high rates of suicide among teens in especially like high pressure areas like Silicon Valley. Palo Alto has a severe problem with this, but they don't publicize it on the media, and all media outlets have agreed on this because it creates copycats.
Yeah.
It gives it. They don't do it because it
puts the idea into
copycats,
people's heads,
and it makes it more okay. Yeah. And that's a very turbulent time for everyone. A lot of things are changing. Your teenagers. In looking stuff up for females, they have a greater chance of attempting suicide from the ages of like 13 to I think it was like 28. For men, it's from like 15 to 50. Right. So for the women, they're greatly affected in their early
like adolescence.
Correct. Adolescent era, right? But they kind of get through that. I'm sure, there's plenty of it that happens beyond the 25-year mark or whatever. But for men, it doesn't really seem to taper off. I don't remember what my point was.
Well, I think with men though, I mean, I know a lot of people who get older and they've been maybe divorced a couple of times, have got some kids, gone through some stuff. They're just trying to survive in their like mid-50s or something like that. And they're just trying to hang on for dear life. They're paying out alimony, they're sending kids to college. There's nothing left for them. They're just I've got some really good friends who make really good money, and they're broke as a joke because of things like that. And it weighs on people. And when you're talking about the suicide rates between men and women, that was kind of my first thought. I'm sure a lot more men in that age where they're turning the corner, they're not so viable in the market anymore. They're still paying all these bills. They're just trying to survive. That's a depressing place to be.
But see, and therein lies one of the problems with the selfish nature of suicide is what you just described. If that person decides to kill themselves, now all the people that they support no longer have that money coming in. So who knows what the situation is.
Yeah, but at the same time, that person can look at that and go, all these people are just sucking me dry.
Yes, but then what happens if there's nobody to support them? So it's like, yes.
Then maybe they have to think for themselves and fend for
true,
themselves.
but what if they're young
adults,
children?
Be adults, get jobs.
What if they're young children? I mean, what's the circumstance? I
do a little on the side. I
don't know. Damn. Thomas, you had to take it there.
And I'm a horrible person.
Well, I agree. Like, if a parent steps...
They should do that on the side.
Are you condoning prostitution to feed your children?
This is an audio show. Nobody saw what he did. My point was going to be kind of what you were talking about, Ben. It's like, yeah, they're in a helpless state and they kill themselves and leave behind children that maybe aren't of age to take care of themselves or don't understand what's going on or why. I do think that's tragic, kind of along the lines of like a teenager committing suicide. But I think more along the lines of what Thomas was getting at. Is like, yeah, if their kids are adults and still milking them, and you're in that state of hopelessness, check out.
Yeah. And I've had lots of friends, like I said, I mean, that are, my brother's age. They're in their early 50s, and they're like, I mean, a lot of these guys, I'm like, man, I feel bad for them. Like they lost the will to live 25 years ago. Because of just dealing with life and having to pay everybody's bills and pay child supports and mortgages and crazy thing. And I think, I don't know, just life in general can make you, it's easy to get in your own head to be in a point in life where you're like, this isn't worth it. I might as well just be dead. And nothing's ever going to change. Nothing's going to be better. So when we give the option of people can legally say we erase the social stigma to it and you say, okay, you can have this option. Everyone has this option. Well, I mean, just because you have a bad day, and lots of people kill themselves because they had one bad day because it was on top of like 4 others or 10 others or 2 years worth, and I think it's a weird area when it comes to suicide. I think if you're sick or something or you're terminally ill or you have something going, yeah, I'm okay with that, but it opens the door to another problem where, like we were saying before about, younger people, lots of younger people think that the world is dying because they broke up with their high school sweetheart,
Definitely. I want to try and play devil's advocate on that young suicide thing too. Sometimes there are people who are just not mentally right, and they end up doing very, very bad things and hurting a lot of other people. So sometimes I think, yeah, there are certain circumstances where if they were suicidal, they would have been doing us all a big, big favor, as opposed to doing it much worse otherwise. Now, and the first thing that comes to my mind, anyway, the major thing that comes to my mind is the school shootings. A lot of those are messed up high school kids that end up taking their lives after they're done shooting everybody anyway.
Or the suicides by cop shooting, by actually shooting at police.
That's a thing. Yes, that's what just came to my
thing.
mind. I was just watching a video yesterday on a shooting that happened in L.A. and I was watching the LAPD. Some of the police departments have actually become much more transparent in giving the public all of their media, or all of their feeds and stuff, because they're tired of all the negative press. So they're like, look, guys, you see what we see. This is what happened. Forget what the media keeps spinning everything into.
Showing them the body cams.
Yes, and other things too, and other findings or whatever. And thankfully they did in this circumstance, and they show. So I'm watching the body cam of one of them, and it's these couple of kids rolling around, shooting at nothing, and then they saw a police car. They started to start shooting at the police car, and the police car pulls over, and then they start engaging these two kids. One was a 17-year-old girl, and one was an 18-year-old boy.
Wow.
I mean, what?
You know what? If they were shooting at me, I'd shoot them too.
Whether or not those people, the fact that they need to be taken out, that's a different story. But the thing is there are circumstances of people who are mentally not well or super, super depressed, and you can get them on a life of antidepressants and whatever other drugs the companies will pump down their throats to try and make them some sort of a numbed individual that they become when you take all that crap. Or you can just leave them alone, and then they could save us all. Who knows what kind of trouble they're going to cause, right? They could end up at your elementary school shooting up your children. I mean, I don't know how sorry for them will you feel at that point. That's kind of what I wanted to play devil's advocate and kind of go off of. I mean, I'm always a strong believer that there is balance in all things, and even though something may seem like something super, super bad, there probably is some good that comes from it that you can't see, or maybe you can see, or maybe it's just further down the line, and we're not meant to see.
Yeah, you couldn't predict that. Yeah.
No.
I haven't thought about it like that. This is a good point.
Something that's kind of always irked me with the suicides. If you want to do something about a situation in your life, that's your business. Whatever. But do you have to leave a mess for somebody else?
Yeah.
I mean, I've had experiences of associates, friends of mine who have taken their life and done it in such a way that it messes with the people around them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've talked to a number of police officers about that stuff too, walking in on suicides and seeing or their kids are there, or the way they choose to do it, and it's just, wow, dude. I mean, but again, I guess that's par for course for the selfish act in the first place, right? I mean, obviously, you don't give a shit about the circumstances or the results of your actions, the effects of your actions, right? Because look at what you're doing. But at the same time, yeah, some people will just they just leave a mess for somebody else to clean up, and who knows what other ramifications come from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have a specific example you're going to get at?
Well, I mean,
or that you wanted to rather.
Working at the railroad, we've had people that commit suicide by stepping out in front of trains.
No shit.
I'm sorry you had a bad day, but you just ruined mine.
Yeah, and countless others too, and possible lawsuits from the family to the railroad. I mean, all kinds of crap. Like, why weren't you watching him and making sure he didn't do that?
Do you know how long it takes to stop a train?
Yeah, I mean, come on. There's
Yeah, I've heard of situations where a gentleman shot himself in the head sitting in front of his computer, and his child came in and found him. Obviously, heard the gunshot and came in, so they found that. They're never going to be the same. And then when police leave, they take the body with them, but they leave the mess. And so the family at that point is left to clean up after them.
Or hire somebody at a great expense if you can afford it.
Yeah, and then that has to be signed off by the state and a bunch of other weird stuff. I had a friend of mine who has a house that was renting to someone who shot himself in the house, and it was a mess. They had to hire a specific agency to clean it.
Oh,
had to have things signed off, like all kinds of crazy.
Was
stuff.
that in California?
Yeah,
You're
like a year ago.
Kidding, dude. Wow, so that's like
it's a mess for the
people. It's like in your car tote or something. You can, they have like a monopoly on the tow truck industry, so they're happy to tow
Pretty
your
much.
cars.
I mean, you could clean it, but they had to sign off. Like, it's a crime scene. Like, there's lots of things, and it depends on what the situation. If it's a crime scene, or they decide they need to spend more time on it, you might not get your house back for 6 months
that
or a
stuff's
year.
Just sitting there in your house. Oh, that's great.
I mean, usually it's pretty quick, but after that happened, I was like, wow, that's kind of weird, and I kind of read a few things about it, and there's weird stuff happens like that.
And it's probably also a biohazard, so you can't just throw the carpet
That's
away.
the biggest issue.
You have to dispose of it.
All that has to be removed. And I was reading one thing where they had to cut out the hardwood floor.
I was just say hardwood floors, drywall. I mean, you might
all
have
of
to
that had to
remove
be
a
removed,
large portion of your home
Yeah.
because of that.
And different cities have different ordinance based on that too, which I thought was crazy.
It is stuff. I mean, I can see that would be stuff that has to be regulated. I mean, there has to be laws.
You can't rent this out after people shot themselves. You just wash the wall.
You just paint over the damn drywall. There's nothing there. Next
it was red anyway.
Starts stinking. Oh, jeez. Starts stinking real bad. And you're like, what the hell is this, man? That's like mold abatement and stuff too. Like people are trying to hide stuff,
Absolutely.
Like, next thing you're like waking up with this hacking cough that you can't get rid of for the next 6 months on your lease, and you're.
They just listened to that lymphoma commercial late at night.
God, gross. So let's talk a little bit about why we already have actually, but I did want to go over a little section here on why do we stop people from doing this, and or not necessarily you and I, but why do other entities stop people from doing this? We've already come up with a couple of examples where actually it can be, in certain circumstances, beneficial to society to have less people. It doesn't mean we think that everybody should go off and start, in mass numbers murdering themselves, but we don't need no more Heaven's Gates or any of the other cult followings that decided to do that. Although,
gotta follow the asteroid, man.
Yeah, but nice. You remember that, nice, from Heaven's Gate. Yeah. However, the interesting thing about that is once those people have done that, we never have to worry about them again because there's no more Heaven's Gate people. I mean, unless there's going to be a round two at some point.
The beauty of suicide cults.
Yeah, it's just kind of, you're done.
I think we should support them.
I don't think there's that many of them.
If you guys can suck a bunch of people in there, just take what you get.
It
becomes a Darwin situation at that point.
Darwinism, survival of the fittest. So okay. Another one that stands to benefit greatly by you not killing yourself is religions, and I think this is one of the reasons all of the religions that I found that I've read into and looked into in life. All of them are very, very anti-suicide. Very, very.
Well, you won't be there Sunday to give them money.
That's right. And on top of that, they offer. They're all there to offer services to help you turn to them and their system in order to.
So you can depend on them.
That's it.
So it sounds like a government, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, as soon as somebody's desperate enough to reach that point, I mean, they might be desperate enough to start believing your shit.
Probably.
I think that's because kids and people who are in that mode, you're very vulnerable at that point.
Yeah, when I was thinking about this, I thought that the religion kind of came into place when we were really early in building communities across the planet, right? And so you only had a finite number of members in your community. You couldn't afford to have them killing themselves, whether it's your church or your village or whatever your entity is. If you only have 500 people and you have a bad winter or a harvest that doesn't come in and you have 4 of your best farmers kill themselves, your community could die as a result of that. So that was kind of the perspective that I took from it and why I felt that, to be honest, the only culture I could find that was accepting suicide was Japanese culture. But even things like where I thought that suicide was acceptable in the Buddhist religion, the most famous suicide I think we can all think of is the gentleman that set himself on fire in Saigon protesting the Vietnam War. That's greatly frowned upon in the Buddhist religion. So he did himself a great disservice in his reincarnation in his religion. He was reincarnated into something that was going to be tormented even more than his current life was before he took it.
Damn. I was thinking while you were talking about that, as far as the numbers go, we started off talking about 40,000 suicides in the country a year, right? Mm-hmm. But then I can't remember which one you guys said. 1 in 25 was only 1 in 25 was successful, right?
Correct.
So that means 40,000 times 25, if my head's right there. 40,000 times 25 a year are attempted suicides. That's potentially that many people. I don't even know how much that is. I can't do. Was that 100 million? 40.
I'm an engineer. I'm terrible at math.
I know that's arithmetic, but I can't. Anyway, you guys do the math. 40,000 times 25. That many people potentially you could save and turn to your religion or whatever the heck you're trying to get them into, right?
Right.
So I mean, what do you got, Glenn? I know you're 1 million. I was right. Okay, so that's 1 million people a year you could potentially turn to your cause if you can save them from killing themselves.
Right. Well, that
So
also
those
depends.
numbers, those are some serious numbers, man.
Yeah,
It's worth investing in.
Hell yeah.
Right? We
That's,
should get some campaigns to go
man, I
promoting
can start
those.
get them donating to the show.
Right. Thinking about killing yourself? Leave us a couple extra bucks.
Hey, I'll
Wow.
personally shoot you an email. We'll help you. We'll walk you through it, man. It's all right. Don't
I
worry
just heard
about it.
shoot you.
You're not going to need it where you're going.
This is more fun. Stay here. Hang out with us a bit longer. There's some more cool stuff to see. Try some psychedelics. You'll be all right.
Ben's got some stickers.
Got some cool swag I can send you. Let's see.
That's all you can last for in life is a couple cool stickers.
That's
Hey,
man,
man.
that's the accumulation of my accomplishments,
Right.
man. Come on. We'll talk those stickers down, man.
Whatever you need to turn that frown upside down. Stickers, a hug, maybe some pills, whatever.
Man. You guys are terrible.
Keep playing with it, Ben.
Yeah. Financial institutions. That's what I'm trying
There's
to
your
get
next
out
sticker idea.
here. You know that made me think of Super Troopers.
Playing with it?
Yeah, Johnny Chimpo, dude. Got a little sticker with a
Yeah.
little monkey holding his banana cock, dude. Yes. Johnny Chimpo, man. Come on.
That was a rager.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Financial institution. Can't even say it, man. God
Yeah,
damn.
fuck those guys.
Wow.
The banks, the credit card companies, they don't want you committing suicide because if you disappear, you don't pay them any more money.
Is your family still responsible for your debt after you die?
In some
things I've
degrees,
heard,
some degrees.
Some things I've heard, but I've heard things like student loans, no, and I don't know about because I mean I don't know, say your sister or your brother or whatever, your mom or whatnot knew that they were gonna like off themselves and they went out and took out a whole bunch of credit cards, ran up a whole bunch of credit debt, and then did it. Then they start coming after you legally, and how?
Well, the argument can be like, well, they bought that stuff for you, or you knew they were doing it.
I guess if they
or,
could
you know what I mean?
prove that
They can try to prove anything.
Yeah, and then I guess, and that's also, I would think that also if you didn't like try to relinquish it to them, like, what do you guys saw here? You can have it back. I mean, what do you want from me? I didn't do this, so I don't know if like at least in California if that would really stand.
I do not underestimate the lawyers in California.
Absolutely right.
They
You
might
have
be able to sue your estate. So before your life insurance went out to anyone, they would have first dibs on
That's
Oh.
true.
assets.
That's a good asset. Yeah, and if you had any assets too, like, you owned property, things like that.
Well, that's a good
Something
idea
like
then.
that.
Okay, I'm fine with that, I guess. And I guess if you had none, though, but then if you have no assets, you're not going to really get that much credit. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Run up a couple $500 credit cards? I mean, how many are you going to get?
I'm sure you could get a few thousand racked up.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Being
to those
creative,
those
come on.
credit card companies. That's just that's
Nickels.
not interest. That's not even interest on
Right.
somebody's account. I mean, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, financial institutions are definitely people that want you to stick around. Another one is, as much as it's kind of weird to say, I guess, because ironically enough, they're the ones saving you. Hospital, medical insurance, pharmaceuticals, these entities, if you're not using their services or taking their drugs, they're not making money off you. They need you.
Yeah, that's what I've said over and over and over. It's way more money to have sick people than to have healthy people.
That's why I've always been a firm believer we're never going to have a cure to any cancer, because if they could give you a pill that would take away cancer, they can't put you on 8
It would
years of
put
pills.
so many people out of work.
Yeah, same thing
many
with HIV too. We're never going to have a cure for HIV. There's for those that don't know, I don't know why I was researching this. I think it was for another topic that we haven't done yet, but there is not a cure for HIV or AIDS. However, when you have full-blown AIDS, there is medication that you can regularly stay on such that you have no symptoms and are not contagious. That's the crazy part. So, yeah.
You still have the virus in your body, but
Yes.
it's dormant,
so you
basically.
could be sleeping with somebody that has AIDS and you aren't getting it. It's still scary, but nevertheless.
Crazy.
So if that's the case, why the hell do we want a cure? Hey, if I'm big Matt,
That sounds like a cure, kind of.
I mean, yes, it is. But
Within a couple generations,
Yeah.
you get a large enough group to.
Is that like a polio shot? at some point? You know, you're
No,
like,
because that's a one-time thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
This is a medication you have to buy all the time.
Well, that's the thing. You have to buy
That's just
it all
So,
the time.
yeah.
So that leads me to believe that there is a cure because that is already doing that.
There very well could be. There's no way for us to know. A lot of people don't want to accept that pharmaceutical companies and hospitals.
They're controlling our diseases.
Wait, yeah, they are businesses, and if there's no way to make money, they're not out there researching cures.
If we don't have flus, if we don't have viruses, if we don't have HIV, there's nothing for them to sell.
And I know we've said it before. They're not out there researching things out of the kindness of their hearts, people. It costs millions of dollars to develop drugs and cures
to
and
keep
whatever.
you sick, to sell you drugs.
Yes, that's it. They're interested in making money off you.
Yeah, but this one only has 6 side effects.
Oh yes,
Six, right?
The side. That's
you won't be
That's
depressed
what-
anymore, but you'll pee and it'll burn so bad.
piss blood
But we
for
have
like
this
3
pill
weeks.
that'll take care of that pee, and this other pill that'll take care of that burn.
And your
And
skin
if
will
you're-
be blue.
And if you're a little
then you-
nauseous, we got one for that too.
except your feet will swell.
And marijuana is illegal.
And
The most ironic thing I can think of is antidepressant medication with the side effect of suicidal thoughts. Who fucking came up with that?
Yep.
And
a
then let
very
it go
good
out.
salesman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem with that too is that I'm sure we've mentioned it before. We're one of the few countries in the world that allows pharmaceutical companies to advertise directly to their people, to its people.
Yeah.
And that should have been made illegal like decades
Absolutely.
ago. But there's this among other amazing
ask
things.
your doctor about.
Yeah, and among other amazing things that get by in this country, like why churches don't pay taxes is another
Yeah.
huge one. Yet we're all being taxed here, and nobody cries about this crap. You know, nobody said, "You want to raise our gas taxes? That's not fair." Why don't you cry about taxing the damn churches? There's so much money that they probably wouldn't raise taxes on us for fucking the next 100 years.
Yeah, but that's immoral.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, they
Tax the church. They're the only ones there to help you.
yeah.
Why be mean to them? They don't mean you any harm.
Didn't mean to get back off on that topic, on that tangent, but yeah, that one pisses me off.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, we talked about those before. Like antidepressants and medications that people give. I had a personal experience. One of my band members that we toured for a couple of years while he was learning and being introduced into the world of antidepressants, and it made him worse. I mean, the guy tried to kill himself 3 or 4 times, and after the band broke up, in the last 10, 15 years I've talked to him, he's had episodes where he'll have a doctor, oh, well, this isn't working. We're going to change this, or we're going to adjust this, or whatever. And then, it might go good. He might go off the rails and lose his job. I mean, he's lost 3 or 4 jobs because of antidepressants, because some doctor's trying to cure him or make him not depressed.
Yeah, improperly medicated or medicated.
And these are
at
by
all.
doctors.
Yeah.
That,
of course. Well, that's the only way you're going to get the prescription, right?
Yeah, and finally, the best that he was able to do was at one point he was hanging out with somebody who was being super positive, and they were like, just stop taking everything.
Yeah.
And he did. And about a year later, he's in the best shape he's been in like 20 years.
Yeah, I've heard of that before.
Like exercising, and that was his medication.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Dude,
heard that.
endorphins do wonders.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
And if you're feeling down, man, go for a run or lift some weights. Just
Get some oxygen in your body. And people
Right.
people don't realize that when you have headaches, one of the best things you can do is exercise.
Just breathe.
Because you're breathing in new oxygen, so it helps clean out the blood. Your brain
water.
and inside your skull, water too. But your brain and the blood inside your skull moves almost slower than lots of other areas of your body. It's more trapped, so it takes more to flush that out. So that's one of the reasons people get headaches, is because their blood is kind of like, you don't have as much oxygen in it. Your body's using the oxygen in your blood all the time. So if you're not bringing in more exercise is so important in cardiovascular things, is to bring more oxygen into your blood. It makes you feel better. But when people are like depressed and, I'm laying around, I don't feel bad, get up and jog, dude. Run around, do something.
That is like proven time.
It helps
and
your
time
mental
again.
processes. You think faster. You're sharper. You
Absolutely.
do
Yeah.
math problems faster.
Yeah, or you just take a walk along the river or somewhere in nature. Makes you feel.
Just walk down the street is all I do. Just go outside, walk down the street.
Take a long walk on a short pier.
Yeah, they told me to take a walk.
I feel better already.
Or I was gonna say B12. That can vitamin B12
Right.
actually can help. I
Get
take-
some sunlight.
Yeah, well, not everybody can get sunlight. Not everybody lives. Or what do you do in the wintertime? There ain't no sunlight. In some places. I mean, it's overcast and
You
dark.
can get those
and
full spectrum
dreary,
bulbs.
Those actually do. Those are nice.
The-
They actually are. Yeah, I had one for
Go
a
to the
bit.
tanning salon.
They're
No,
big
don't
in
do that.
regions where sun doesn't rise for
Seattle and stuff.
days
yeah.
at a time. Above the what's the line? I forget.
Equator?
No.
Equator. Fuck you.
Above ground, you mean?
Up in like the northern ends of Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
Where the sun doesn't rise for 30 days.
Or you have 30 days straight of sun and then not for the rest of the year.
Right.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, that whole loop they go through. Or I know they do that too in submarines. When the guys are down and they don't come back up for a long time. Yeah, they have those rooms with the lamps or whatever that you can go into, and you're supposed to have X number of hours a week or something that you spent in there. And I know they also do that in the North and South Pole. With those special research teams that set up those crazy habitats that those people stay in, when they're down there, there's no way out. It's like I remember The Thing, dude. It's like some Thing stuff. I mean, minus the crazy alien infecting everybody, but it's so they have those lamps too for the people to because there's nothing but snow and freezing temperature all the time.
Yeah, but that's another thing too. Is climate definitely affects people's personality and being depressed. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, and there was times where wintertime shows up, and on 1st of October, you don't see the sun again until like May.
Or anything green.
It's just cloudy and damp and just depressing.
Yeah, assuming that the cause the cause of what's leading to suicide is a repairable level of depression. Yeah, those are definitely things that
it's all climate change, dude.
Yeah,
you just gotta go out and hug some trees.
Yeah,
but on
you need to adjust your climate.
On your point, Thomas, one of the things that I was looking up, like in Greenland, they have a lot of suicides happen. You would think that would be like during winter and stuff. It's more frequently in the springtime when things start getting better.
What?
Isn't that fucked up?
That's because they've spent 5 months depressed.
Yeah,
and it's just
it's
that one bad day
system or something. I mean, because I grew up always hearing that the highest suicide rate in the U.S. is, I don't even know if this is still true, but I remember hearing about it was in Seattle in Washington, right? And then the next thing everyone would say was, because it rains all the time, it's always overcast or whatever. And I was like, I guess that makes sense, but I don't know if that's still the case. And it's like, what is it? Doesn't rain for long periods of time in other parts of the country? Like, I don't know. So I don't know if that's still true or not.
It's depressing in lots of areas. My brother lives near Michigan, the Michigan-Indiana border, and he's flat out admits it. Like during the wintertime, lots of people get depressed because it's cold, it's dark, short days. You don't
wears
really see
on you.
sun.
It
does
with
wear
the
on
wind
you.
and the cold, and you're just constantly you feel tired and achy, and it makes you feel life is terrible.
Yeah.
And you're trapped inside all day.
Yeah, as opposed to living in South America. Where you're it's warm, there's things to do. Think about what it's like in California during the summer.
Yeah.
People are everywhere you're doing stuff. You're active.
It's retardedly hot here.
Yeah, well, here in Sacramento.
Well, in Sacramento it's hot. But I mean, I was referring more for me from being in Southern California. It's I
never spent any time down there. I don't know.
Down by the ocean.
The weather's awesome. Yeah, Oceanside, Carlsbad, all those areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hanging out on those beaches.
That's it.
It makes you feel a lot better. That's for sure.
Yeah, so hopefully that this topic and this discussion you guys didn't take it the wrong way, and we just wanted to try and bring in an interesting angle to, or an interesting perspective rather, to what is usually a dreary topic, and I don't know, see where the conversation led. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.